Hello and welcome to episode 24 of the Belair podcast. Today's guest was thrown into the world of wellness as a teenager when her father was diagnosed with terminal cancer. Her family made a choice to fight back with alternative medicine. 7 months later, her dad was declared cancer-free, and a spark was lit that propelled her to dedicate her life to spreading the healings her family had discovered. Today, she runs one of New York City's leading private coaching practices as a certified holistic health practitioner with a primary focus on nutrition and permanent weight loss. Her heart-centered approach has allowed hundreds to reach their health goals naturally without crash dieting. She is the founder of the Holistically Slim movement, an advisor to several empowerment groups, an in-demand public speaker, and author of the e-course Meditate Slim. When not supporting her clients, she can be found leading transformative wellness experiences around the globe. Her mission and passion are one and the same, shifting the world to a greater state of happiness through well-being. Welcome to the show, Sarah Ann Stewart.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Super, super excited to be here tonight. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, my pleasure. So you are just getting settled in your new office in LA, you're telling me before we go?
Yeah, in Venice, California. So it's one of the first casts I've done from here. So I'm excited to be in this energy in this space and sharing it with you and everyone. So
amazing. I was actually one of my friends, I'm going to be podcasting tomorrow. His name's Taylor Conroy. He is the creator of Change Heroes. And this is what is it? It's a charity, and it's amazing. And it's he's raised over $1 million. He just moved to Venice. So I was talking to him before, but we had technical difficulties. So it seems like it's a hub of just, and it's an amazing, beautiful place too.
Thank you. It's energetically really, really precious and beautiful here. And you can just feel the inspiration and go outside and feel the air and the ocean. And it's really a beautiful space. And if you haven't been, I highly recommend everyone come and visit.
Yeah, totally. So for people who don't know you, I got introduced to you through the wonderful Alex Kipp podcast, wonderful human being. And I loved reading about your story, your background, everything that you're doing. So
thank you.
Fill some people up on all that awesome stuff.
Yeah. So as we talked, and if you haven't heard of my story or what I've been up to, for the last several years, I've been running a private coaching practice that works with individuals to help them reprogram thinking around eating disorders and permanent weight loss. And how this kind of came to be was that I grew up in a holistic environment. My father and mother both were very conscious about the energy around us, spirituality. I started meditating when I was 5 years old, integrated yoga. We were doing yoga in our basement, all the woo-woo things that, several years ago were really out there. And so when my father got terminal cancer, he decided to completely go against the Western medicine and really embrace alternative medicine, nutrition, food, to basically heal himself from the inside out. And during this time, I also was exposed to the fashion industry. I had been scouted to become a model. I had my first pageant when I was 14. And for me, it was this exciting kind of adventure. I was like, okay, I'm going to get out of this small world. I'm going to get out of this small town of Michigan and travel the world and get to see all these cool things and integrate all these new experiences and places into my life. But little did I know that the entire industry and thinking I had a good head on my shoulders actually wasn't enough. And I fell into the trap of partying, yo-yo dieting, just binge drinking, all the things that come with the fashion industry. And I really wasn't able to hold myself in that space in a holistic way. And I thought that I could balance the holistic environment and the fashion industry, and I couldn't. And so I got really sick. And after 10 years of eating disorders, I had to find my way back out. And I did that through meditation and through really finding my way back to my roots and how I grew up. And so I believe, and what I'm really passionate about today is this idea that nutrition isn't enough, because I had grown up learning about nutrition. I learned about how it can cure cancer, but yet, within that understanding and that knowledge, I still myself got sick and suffered from a mental disorder. So, today is I'm really just passionate about teaching people that you can study all the nutrition in the world, but really there's still a mind component to it that you really have to dive into and really figure out what's going on in that mind.
Love that. That's
Thank
amazing.
you.
So there's a lot of stuff in there that's really good. The one thing I want to touch on, so cancer right now is technically still supposed to be incurable, correct? Like the rest,
It's
that's supposed to be the common thought.
Well, there's so many thoughts around it. And what's interesting is that as I started studying under these institutes, so my father went to Hippocrates Institute and we did the Ann Wigmore program. And I also studied Gerson's online, and I studied the plant-based nutrition program at Cornell and at IAN. And I studied all these different methodologies and ideas around nutrition and what's the best and the worst. There was a common underlying theme that being on a plant-based organic diet is very healing. Whether it cures cancer or not, many people have used it to cure cancer. It's something that my father did use. He's been cancer-free for 13 years, so it's been a phenomenal sort of experience for us. And I've seen a lot of other people do it as well. There's lots of different thought, but I think that one of the reasons he was truly successful was because of the mind component. He did meditation every single day. He wrote vision board. He made vision boards. He wrote on this chalkboard, every day an inspiring quote that he walked on the treadmill and read the same affirmation every single day. And he integrated all of these really positive mind reprogramming techniques. Because when a doctor tells you you're going to die, you really have to reprogram that belief that you've now been told, right? That it is possible to live through it, which is super scary and super challenging. And yeah, he contributes a lot of it to the mindfulness components, and a lot of wonderful supportive people that really helped him through it.
Well, yeah, the reason why I want to touch on that, because, everyone I've been, well, not everyone, but so many people that I've been podcasting, like Alex, like a lot of people I studied with, Dr. Joe Dispenza, who has the leading science of people curing themselves of things that are supposed to be incurable.
Exactly.
So I think the common thought right now is still, cancer, you're toast. There's no cure.
Right.
But somehow everyone I keep podcasting knows somebody, right? They've either done it, some of them have done it themselves, or they know somebody that's done it.
Yeah, so, and it's very inspiring, and it's like miracles do happen, and whether that miracle is because of the belief that it is possible, I think that the belief creates the intention, which creates the reality, right? So it's really inspiring to see. But yeah, so my father was told, you have X amount of time to live, and this is what we suggest if you have even hope of this. And it was really inspiring for me to see, just as a child, and just be like, why is it working? Why did it work for him? And maybe it's not working for other people. And where is the missing link? And how do we get this information out there and share it and just inspire people, not just with cancer, but all different sicknesses, right? Like, it's not just that story, but for me, it's inspiring everyone to say, take a deeper look into yourself and the resources that we have available online and the people, and find the inspiration that resonates with you. And I think the most important part is find the inspiration that resonates with you, that you truly can believe in, because again, that will set the intention that it will work. You have to figure out, like, does this feel good for me? If it worked for someone else, doesn't mean that it feels good for you. And it really has to feel good with you. And that's the same with dieting and losing weight and all different aspects of health.
Yeah, I totally agree, because what you're saying here is it's not one thing that fixes it. It's not you go, oh, hey, here's a plant-based diet, now miracles happen. I think that you'd agree it really just start with a mindset, and then that will find a solution. You're willing to try all these things.
Right.
A lot of the things that work, miracles, just make freaking sense. They just make a lot of sense. You have this thing that is killing you, whatever it is. It might be cancer, it might be something else. How about you eat the absolute healthiest foods that you can? Let's start there. You're going to die. So then some people grasp that, but also the power of the mind is something that's my background. And I've just seen and heard story after story of people doing things through the power of the mind, through, all this repetition and belief and reprogramming. And it's such a powerful thing. And I love your story about, you watched your dad create a miracle, right?
Yeah.
And you just watched it. So now, the best thing that we can do, I think, on this planet is be the example. As hard as it's going to be, just be the example. Be the example of being a good person. Be the example of abundance if you can.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm learning, which is dope when we get there.
Oh, yeah.
But there's all these, you can act in a certain way and people around you are watching that, right? So especially if you have kids, right? And your friends are all watching you. So just be the best example you can. And where I was going with this was your story. So you watch your dad create a miracle. You have this opportunity and you're going to break out and you're going to be a model and travel the world and do all this fun stuff. And as a young adult, you like to party and you like to do some things. And it's very similar to me going to snowboard in Whistler, where, you know, I'm going to go snowboard in the mountains and I'm going to do all this amazing stuff. And while at the same time, I was still learning about meditation and doing martial arts and doing all these different stuff, I definitely focused a great deal on drinking as hard as I could. Not like it was like I'm going to drink as hard as I can. It just seems to be a byproduct. And so, you know, I definitely relate to that, you know, balance. And that's something that I think in sport, you know, I want to add to the mindset
Yeah.
of how you're doing that. And then you have this whole group of people that you're helping with weight loss and also just bringing beauty to women, right? It's such a bummer that you look at these magazines that, you know, I feel bad for women sometimes because this, you know, we have it a little bit less. We have we have masculine struggles, which are real and they suck.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, we have this magazine, you know, it's the perfect girl and she's photoshopped and she's 25 pounds, which is not even the perfect girl, you know, it's super messed up. So,
Yeah.
and then girls, I think, you know, I don't know, maybe you'd agree or not, but they're meaner to each other. I think that guys, you know, we're more overtly dicks. You know what I mean? Like if, you know, if you don't like, you just, it's overt, but girls can be really mean, you know, and then it creates all these kind of problems.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really learned about community. I mean, being in the fashion industry and going through it was one of the best things that could have happened to me because I learned how you really are co-creating your reality with the people around you. And I remember very vividly, like being in the hospital, being told I was killing myself, being told I was going to die, and just sitting there and thinking, like, how did I get here? Like, where along my path did I go wrong where I have fallen this far? And how could someone who was raised in this space, raised in this environment of, you know, holistic healing, my father was a public speaker for 20 years. He taught about mind body psychology and past life regression and meditation and all these things. Like, where did it go wrong? Like, what happened? And it really happened as I just shifted my friends, changed the energy that was around me, changed my belief systems, and all these things happened in a very short amount of time. It was like night and day. And I just learned that we really are. Today, I feel like, you know, the saying that we co-create with the 5 people that we are around the most. And I believe that to some extent, but now I think it's different because we're constantly being influenced subconsciously by magazines and Instagram and Facebook, and everything that we're filtering nonstop is constantly triggering our subconscious patterns to create beliefs about how we feel. And so I think, you know, yes, who you surround yourself with, but also what you surround yourself with. So are you going home at night watching watching inspirational or listening to podcasts and inspirational videos? Or are you going home and watching, you know, some runway show or something about that you're not good enough if you don't have money, or the career, or all of those things? What are you watching on TV? What are you reading? What are you thinking about on a consistent basis? That too is co-creating our reality so much more than ever before. And I think we have to be very conscious about it. And we have to be very conscious about what communities we're joining. Are we in a community that's supporting growth and positivity and love and creativity and joy? Or are we in a community that's doing competitions around how much we weigh and how much we weigh and how we look? It's a very different feel. And I always say, sit with yourself and close your eyes. And how do you feel with the person you're with? How do you feel with the community? How do you feel with whatever experience that you're happening? And if you don't feel good and you don't feel alive and enjoying your life, you should move to the next. It's really, really important.
I love all that. It's something that I've been talking about quite a bit. In Buddhism, they call it mental nutriments. And so I've studied psychology and hypnosis. And one of the things that I'll use an example is don't think about a purple hippopotamus, or try not to imagine the American flag.
Yeah.
Your mind has to make sense. So people aren't realizing, a lot of people don't, is that you're looking at the stuff and you're taking it in, and then in order to make sense of it, you have to actually create that. And so another example I use is, if you think, I'm not going to go into it because I've done it before, but if you think about something like really sad that's happened in your life, or you think about something that could go terribly wrong with a loved one, you'll feel the energy of it. It'll bring you down, and you will create an emotion, and your body's sending a signal to bring you more of that.
Mm-hmm.
So to be really, really conscious of what is coming in, how things are making you feel. And that's what all the billboards are doing. It's getting in there. Your unconscious mind perceives so much more than you think that it is. So that's why it's so powerful to live around great people, to be in nature, not only to be consciously motivated and uplifted, but unconsciously all those little things that you're getting.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to acknowledge and to understand the subconscious mind, and that it overrides your conscious behavior. So let's say I, as a health coach, go into your home and I fill your home with all these greens and nutrients and supplements, and I stock your fridge with all of this great, good, like perfect nutrition that's really going to like support you in healing. And your conscious mind and your subconscious mind is like, no, you're not worthy of a healthy body. No, you're not worthy of being like strong and energetic, because you're, I'm going to keep you belittled and young and like little, like you were, maybe as a child you felt. And so your subconscious mind is still playing these like safety mechanisms, is like your survival mode. And so I can fill your fridge with all that stuff, but you're still going to go to McDonald's on the way home from work, or you're still going to go out and order that pizza, and you're not going to actually reach for the healthy things because of the programmed belief systems that exist within you. So it takes one more step, and that subconscious patterning is so very important to reprogram, because if you don't, again, it's overriding. It's like taking control and kind of dictating your behaviors and your patterns. And that's why people are like, I've tried so many times. Like, I've tried this diet, I've tried another diet. And it doesn't matter what diet it is. You're going to place blame on the diets and place blame on the health coaches and place blame on all of the experts that you've looked at, instead of looking within yourself, figuring out what's going on, and then taking responsibility, and then moving forward from that position, and then going back to the health coaches and all the protocols and taking the best of the best and saying, okay, how do I integrate all of this in now that I've healed the underlying condition and I no longer need this weight to feel this way?
Yeah, exactly. So basically, what kind of person would hire you? This would be somebody that wants nutrition and health, and they want to learn more about their diet. And then a lot of it, they're thinking, they're getting a meal plan, or they're getting, what they have to put in their fridge. But meanwhile, you're going to be working at all the back,
all the other layers. Yeah. So it's interesting. A lot of people are now coming to me because they've been referred, and they're like, I've been on 8 different diets and I'm ready to finally like take control of my life. And they're kind of in that responsibility phase where they're like, okay, I'm ready to full force, like look at what's going on within me. I would say, I'm always very upfront with people, like, this isn't a nutrition protocol. And even in my courses, the first page is like, you're not going to learn about like what to exercise and how many calories you should be eating and carbs and fats, because honestly, like, you're not going to stick to it if we don't do this other stuff first. So I give, a very standard sort of protocol I recommend, of course, cutting out the alcohol and the white sugars and, those sort of, and the gluten and the dairy to begin with, and doing an elimination diet, like very, very basic things. But then after we heal the mind, then we fine tune and work on bio-individuality. So how do you feel eating different foods? Because every single person is different. So this is something else that's super important with weight loss, is that I don't have one client that is on the same protocol as any other client. Every single person has a different lifestyle, has a different way of eating. Like, there are, very baseline things that I recommend, like a plant-based diet, 80 to 90%, eating a lot of vegetables, getting lots of water, getting rest, meditating. But everyone has a different protocol and what works best for them. And we have to work together to figure out what works for them, because everyone has a different life. Some people have kids, and everyone's at a different age. It's like, I can't write out something on a piece of paper and hand it to every person and expect it to work. There's just no such thing.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's not one mold that's going to fit the whole blanket solution. There's tools that work, but we can tailor them to our unique upbringing, understanding needs and all that. So is that a rough outline of what the Holistically Slim movement is? Like, how did that whole thing come about, and what is the real motivation and principle and mission behind it?
Yeah, so my courses are called Meditate Slim. So the basis of my courses are meditation, and then there's principles within them that help reprogram subconscious behavior. So, and they also help deal with anxiety. So let's say you're having anxiety in a dressing room or at dinner. There's tools that you can use at all times to basically diminish that anxiety, bring yourself back to a state of calm so that you don't trigger to binge or have, an eating episode or fall off the wagon of your healthy lifestyle. The Holistically Slim movement is something that I just started, and that's basically not focusing on weight or how much weight you have to lose, but focusing on the holistic side of weight loss, focusing on mind, body, and spirit, and shedding and losing all the things that are no longer serving you. So when you look at spirituality, relationships, even movement, career, all the different areas of your life, what parts of your life are not serving you? Because if you look at those parts specifically, you're going to figure out what is triggering you to hold weight based on that part of your life. So let's say your career is really not serving you, you're not feeling fulfilled, you're not feeling creative, you're really just like stuck and stagnant. You might be just binging at lunch because you're looking for a creative outlet, and that's your way of getting space during the day. Or let's say you have a relationship that's not serving you and you're blaming your partner for the fact that he eats unhealthy, but it's really because you're not happy in the relationship. Or there was something that happened as a child that you need to heal to basically feel worthy of a healthy relationship, but you're holding the weight because it's keeping you from going out and exploring and dating. Or there's so many different patterns that happen within our childhood and how we relate to food, and then how we use the weight as an energetic block to keep us stuck in all those different areas. So the Holistic Slim is really like this community of support to basically shift the areas of your life that are keeping the weight on you. Because, and I've been asked a lot, like, why are you doing a weight loss movement? Like, shouldn't it be self-love? Well, 38% of America is obese. And so there is still a massive amount of people that need the support. That, I talk a lot about self-love, but there still needs to be a movement around losing weight, because if you have excess amount of weight on you and you can't do the things you love, then we need to have that conversation and open that dialogue and not stay stuck in that space.
Absolutely. Healthy mind, healthy body.
Right.
So it's a fundamental part of being human. I think Socrates said something along the lines of to not see, the fullness of the human body is I don't know, I'm butchering his quote. It's awesome, but it's basically, if you don't see what your body is capable of, it's a tragedy. This body is amazing. Socrates was jacked, and he was what his body was capable of, but then that increases the energy, it increases confidence, it increases how you feel, it changes how you think. So I love the way that your intention is behind it. It's so similar to what I am in the process of doing with sport, and everyone that I interact with is taking the same mentality from martial arts that I had ingrained in me as a kid. Is martial arts was a way to develop the mind, body, and spirit. You're using the same thing through health, that we can just shift the perspective on things, and it can really have a powerful impact.
Yeah, very powerful. And just starting to take, I think also we live in a very lame society. We always want to blame someone else. And this movement is really about taking responsibility. It's finally like, okay, you're responsible. You're responsible for what you're looking at. You're responsible for your people in your life. You're responsible for what you eat and what goes in your body. And there's no place for blame anymore. Like, let's look inside and let's get this fixed, because, in that space of meditation, quieting your mind, discovering self-love, figuring out self-esteem, self-worth, that's what in those moments of being quiet, that's what's going to set you free. Like, that's where you're going to figure out what's going on. And I just really want to create awareness around that. I really want to, let people know they have a space and community for those discussions, which are so terrifying and so scary. I know they are. I see my clients every day that are so scared to meditate, so scared to journal, so scared to figure out what's going on in their mind because it's going to bring up some really painful stuff. But when you clear that out, you create so much freedom for your mind and your body, most importantly, and then everything starts to shift, and it doesn't become so much about the food anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. I was watching the Tony Robbins documentary yesterday, and there's, one of the girls that speaks, and he's like, "How can I help you?" And she's like, "It's my diet. I want to change my diet." And then basically, Tony's a wizard. So
Uh-huh.
in a few sentences, she's down into this deep childhood pain about fatherly love, and
Yep.
gets that out of there, and it takes a process. And it just shows that our minds are very clever, that it kind of wants to, rather than going at the thing that's really bothering us, going at that pain or that experience or that memory, because that's where it shows up, is in the silence. But if we can move through that, then we open up all this energetic space to allow ourselves for healing, because otherwise we're just putting band-aids on a sinking ship, and
Yeah.
until, we're going to keep trying to use the bucket, but it's not really going to work. So the sense that I'm getting is, you're looking at health and you're looking at weight, and you're helping people shift their entire perspective around what they're doing and how they think about it.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because we talk about drugs and sex and alcohol and food, and those are kind of these things we go to when we're trying to deal with our own suffering. The interesting thing about food, it's like the quickest, easiest, fastest of all of them. Like, it's something we have to eat to survive. It's something we use. Most of us are eating 3 meals a day, or controlling and not eating any. But either way, it's something that we need to survive. So it becomes this comfort, and becomes part of our suffering process, and we have to learn to heal it and shift the mentality of even just how we see food. As if you were young, and maybe when you were a kid you thought, okay, well, you were told you have to finish all those greens on your plate because kids in Africa don't have food or something. Maybe you heard things like that, or maybe you heard that we don't have enough money, so we have to finish all the food on your plate. So you become a hoarder and you hoard food. Whatever those childhood thought patterns were, because food is such a common thing and we're eating all the time, we really have to start to dissect, what are these feelings before, after, during and after, and in those feelings, how do they relate to our childhood? How do they relate to our feelings? And then heal them and say, no, this is supposed to be a beautiful experience 3 times a day. Every single time I sit to eat, I should sit in, quiet, and feel this food going into my body and nourishing my body, and appreciate it and have gratitude for it. And just shifting those beliefs, it's so crucial if we want to heal on a cellular level, and heal our minds and how we process food daily.
Well, I think I totally, so hard agree with all of that. And I think that you've just been sharing so much really just powerful, and it's just a truth. It's powerful. You got to go through your own process to get there, but that's the truth. You've done this, but can you kind of give, if there's a viewer out there and they're, let's say, overweight, or so it could be a male and they're not in shape. I know lots of out of shape men, women overweight, but like, what kind of shifts or practical advice could you give them right now to shift some mindsets? Say, here, start with these shifts, and try those on, and this should help. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can. Are you there? Okay. Awesome. Can you hear me on my side? Sorry, it just went out for 1 second.
I gotcha.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so there's, I think, first and foremost, we have grown up in a culture, in a society, in where there's so much competition, and there's this fear of failure, because we went to school, and if we didn't get 4.0, we were the bad student. And if we didn't become the top of our class, or the best in soccer, or get the grades and the SAT scores to get to college, there's so much mentality around failure. And I feel like because of that, and because of that scared mindset that we're going to fail at life, whether it be that job, the relationship, we're so scared to try something new. So when you think about dieting, a lot of people don't even start a new protocol or start a healthy lifestyle or start even exploring what feels good for their body because they're scared they're going to fail. So if they go on the diet, they're like, well, I have a wedding next weekend and then a graduation and Christmas. I'm going to fail at this diet anyway, so I'm not even going to start. I see this so often with people. So instead of that mentality, shifting it to, wow, okay, so I might have a weekend off or I might mess up and that's okay. And this is going to be an awesome experience because I'm going to take something from this diet and I'm going to take something from this expert and I'm going to research some cool new supplements. I'm going to integrate them in and I'm going to keep adding all this really, really good new stuff to my life. And I'm just going to like think of my body as this experiment where I can like make my body the best possible like I can make this experience the best possible and start to integrate all these healthy things and get rid of the fear completely, let go of the fear of failure. Like there's no failing when it comes to your body. There's no failure. The failure comes from staying stuck. And if you're not staying stuck and you're creating the energy and the momentum of doing something better for yourself, you're signaling that to the universe that you're trying and the momentum of the energy of trying. And therefore your body will respond and feel grateful and gratitude towards that experience. So that's one. I can keep going.
Well, I love that one. What was triggered for me was, doing sports psychology or mindset training, right? Most of the clients come after they've mangled themselves. I think you've spoke about this a lot in some of your other podcasts and blogs about this prevention mindset. It's wait until I got to go to the hospital and get, my arteries are all clogged and I'm totally screwed, then I'll do something. Or, we kind of are programmed to wait until it's so bad. And in sport, it's the same thing. I'll have guys like, oh, I don't need mindfulness or psychology or visualization. I'll just go do it. And then when they're mangled, then they come. But they don't realize what level you can get to when you bring mindfulness into it. And those are the people that really accelerate because they know that, and they don't have this kind of, in the male masculine attitude, it's, I know everything and I'm just going to go do it. And I don't need anyone outside. I don't need help. I don't need help for these directions. I know where I'm going. And then I'm not exactly sure what the female mindset is, but maybe something along those lines.
Yeah, along the lines of like, I have a wedding next week, so now I need to like diet really quick and lose weight for this wedding, or I need to look good for my reunion, or I get a lot of calls like right before Coachella, or these funny like events. It's like, can you help me lose weight for this? And I'm like, I'm not that kind of coach, but we can work on this other thing. And I think it's important too to understand just where that mentality is coming from. So it's coming from the behavior of our parents who took us to the doctor when we were sick. And that was the only time that we saw someone about our health. So when you grow up in the mentality, the only time you go to the doctor, and even when we were kids, it was, and I know a lot of my clients too, they say, well, my parents would say, well, unless it's really, really bad, we're not going to go to the doctor. So it's like that mentality, right? That like you have to be super, super sick to go to talk to someone about health. And then when you go and talk to someone about health, they're not giving you any nutrition advice. And if they are giving you nutrition advice, it's very limited. It's like orange juice and have some, chicken soup or something. So we never had that dialogue. We've never had that communication. And if you did, you were privileged to be like having these conversations with your parents, but most of us haven't. So it's really important to understand where that comes from. And I think also understanding our concept around healthy rewards and the fact that most of us think that when you go on a healthy lifestyle that, okay, well, I'm going to reward myself by doing something shitty for my body after I've taken really, really good care of myself. And that again is just a program belief of self-sabotage. So it's like we go and do really, really healthy, then we self-sabotage, then we feel guilt and shame, and then the cycle continues over and over and over again. Instead of just saying, okay, I'm going to allow myself to be super, super healthy. And this again comes from the patterning of burnout. We would study in college for days, and then we would party on the weekends. It's the same mentality. It's like you're basically, preventing, life or living and feeling good. And then you go out and you like let it all out at once. It's the same mentality for dieting. And it's really important to say, where do I shift that mentality to have a healthy reward? Because I've taken really good care of myself. So whether that's energy work, Reiki, a yoga retreat, going on a beautiful vacation, going and spending money on a beautiful vegan meal, going and spending, getting a beautiful detox kit or something that's great, that's going to help you continue to feel really good. That is a version of a healthy reward versus the self-sabotage. Like, I'm going to all of a sudden, go out and binge all weekend because I worked out for 4 days. And that mentality is really something we need to look at from a very cultural sort of experience that we all are so accustomed to.
That's a really powerful perspective for me. I can definitely say that I am very guilty of that one.
I am as well. We all are.
No, that's really, really good. And you can see how that programming gets installed. One of the food ones specifically for me that I didn't realize until I was an adult was, mine was finish your food. And I would be full. And so many parents do that. And it's coming from a good place, right? To, take what you need. But if you're full, then you're full.
Yeah.
You know that. And so, I'm stuffing this stuff in and I'm eating, into my 20, you think I would sort it out on my own. But if I take too much pasta that I've made at home by myself, rather than putting it back in, I'm just stuffing myself and I can't move. And it's just these old patterns. And so it's looking at these things, but where you can really see if you have a problem, I'm kind of working through this in my mind right now, is that it's through the feeling. So if I feel like I cannot move and I have done this to myself, what is the root cause of that? And then that's where thinking and mindfulness come into play, actual thinking. And that's maybe a nice segue into, why you've gone to Meditate Slim, because you've got somebody out there and they say, I want to lose weight. And then you see Meditate Slim and probably right away they're like, bullshit.
Or that's not going to work. Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. What is that?
I know, and it's so interesting. So even as we move into Thanksgiving, I have a lot of clients like, I'm nervous about Thanksgiving. I'm stressed. I always gain weight. And even the mentality of, I always gain weight over the holidays. I always gain weight over Thanksgiving. I stuff my face during Thanksgiving. Why do we have this belief? Why can't it just be Thanksgiving is a beautiful meal. We get to experience it with our family and friends. We get to taste delicious food, but we don't have to it's like we go into it with this belief that we are going to stuff our face. And then the next 2 months, we're going to continue to stuff our faces through New Year's. And it's just this like this energy. And because everyone around us is like, we're all doing it, we think that like it's okay and it's accepted and it's fine because like you have January to burn off everything that you just ate. The problem is like you're really destroying your body doing that. So the shift is really looking inside yourself and saying, well, why do I feel like right now I need to binge my face off at Thanksgiving? Taking 5 minutes, quieting your mind. Like, where is that patterning coming from? Does that feel safe for me? Does that feel, because that was my time where I got to really feel loved when I was a child, was during Thanksgiving, and I want to recreate that feeling of love again. And like, is that where it's coming from? And what other things can I do right now to make myself feel loved again, and to make the love come from within me, not from this exterior factor of Thanksgiving. So that's what like meditation does. That's what mindfulness does. That's what looking at, where is it coming from? What is lacking? Where can I fix the interior so that I can create a safe space where I don't need to reach for these like cultural things that will make me feel empowered or safe or loved, or all the things we're actually looking for, right? So yeah, that's my
It's so powerful because it is the fundamentals. The one thing that I was thinking though, so I'm Canadian and we've already had our
happy Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. So when I went over to my aunt's house, I had already made the mental decision that I was going to eat as much as I could. That was like my decision. I was like, I have just accepted that I'm going to eat as much as I can. Not, I'm going to try my best. And that's it. Now, I can't say that I really have a very, very active and balanced lifestyle. So that's something that I can look at. But it's interesting, to that perspective. But if you're really out of balance, but even for me, right, that mindset of just like, it's delicious food. But still, like, that's my go-to mindset, is to see how much I can eat. So, it's interesting just to look at that. I just wanted to say that what you're doing is so powerful, because I've done the same thing in sport, and I know how powerful it is. It's a listening. It's number one, bringing mindfulness into the game to the deepest core programming of what you are. You're essentially, your mind is a computer system running software, running these programs to the neural nets in your mind. So until you can catch the root program, the underlying software, the most fundamental programming, you as you stack on top, you're not going to get the result you want. So, the way that I've looked at sport is kind of getting to those underlying fundamentals of building from the most empowering beliefs, and then using tools to install those beliefs, then using visualization techniques to up the ante. And then, affirmations are like, sprinkled on top with other things, but you've got to get to that root.
Yeah.
Affirmation is not going to mean anything if you've got this massive, opposing software going on. It's like a truck versus a dinky car or something. You know what I mean? You've got there's a big gap there. So I can see how powerful that is. And the other addition is, you're going in with women and you have some stuff for anxiety. And what else do you have? Because you're looking at fundamental roots that everybody, like almost everybody has, is it not everybody, but a very high percentage: overweight, feeling anxious, feeling depressed. So I guess, yeah, what do you offer, and how do you help people like that? Because that's super common, unfortunately, as well.
Yeah, so you have to really, really figure out, and one of the first things I do with my clients is figure out where you're experiencing the most amount of anxiety. Like, where is it? And so let's say it is in your kitchen, because you want to go into your kitchen and you want to cook and but you don't know what to cook, or you don't know how to cook, or you don't know what would actually make you feel really good, or if going to the market and bringing home organic greens and all of the veggies would make you feel good. So like, this is just one example. So let's say a client was having a lot of anxiety in the kitchen. So I would offer up a meditation, like a compassion, gratitude, or forgiveness meditation around that space and why they're feeling that way in that space. So sitting down, going through a visualization. How do you want to feel in your kitchen? How do you want to experience cooking? How do you want to experience eating food in your kitchen? Do you want it to be quiet and not running around and having, maybe your kitchen is harboring really negative energy because it's that place that you and your ex-boyfriend used to spend a lot of time, and now you're having a lot of pain in there because you're of the memories, and you need to just clear it out. Maybe it's a space that you resort to late at night when you're sad and depressed, and it's kind of like your safety haven. We have to figure out those spaces for you and figure out what is being created in them, and then we can heal in those spaces. So maybe it's in the dressing room, maybe it's right before you go on a vacation and you're having a panic attack because you have to go and, wear a bathing suit, and how that feels for you. So looking at the different areas and figuring out where are you getting the most anxiety, then how do we heal that? How do we look at what is actually the root cause, or what is triggering that feeling? I have a client right now, just to give you an example. She's this beautiful girl. She, her parents don't approve of her wedding. And so she has put all this weight on because she's very, she's very concerned that, and I think maybe it's preventing the wedding from happening and these feelings. And as she's starting to heal this aspect of the approval and the forgiveness towards them and the forgiveness towards herself, the weight's coming off, and she's getting really excited about the wedding and feeling really good about it. But the weight was a manifestation of preventing it because of this aspect that was going on. And we had to dive deep into that. I had another client who was really scared to fly over water, and she wanted to go backpack across Europe, and she prevented, the weight was preventing her from going. I'm not healthy enough. I'm not in good enough shape. And the real root cause was her fear of flying over water, and her weight was her excuse, right, to be able to go do that. So then we had to work through that. So there's always something, right? And figuring out what that is and using different tools. So I also use affirmations and guided meditations, and a lot of forgiveness components: forgiveness for yourself, forgiveness for the people in your life who have hurt you, and sending them compassion and love because they know not what they've done or even what they've created for you to have these experiences with your body, and moving through that space. And also a lot of questions that then trigger answers within someone else. So sometimes we can't see what's really going on, but if we're asked the right questions, then we can figure it out in our minds.
That's really amazing and powerful stuff. I just spent some time with Joel and Michelle Levy. They are meditation experts, and when we were working together, they've trained with like every who's who of guru. They're older, and they're one of the things I like to say is they're like, we're 60s babies, like we were around. And so they just showed the slideshow of all these gurus, and I didn't even know. I know some of them, but you look at them and it's like, holy smokes, you know what I mean? It's like just some sort of yogi wizard, and you just like hundreds. It's like, holy smokes. And what they were saying, and it always comes down to fundamentals and fundamentals and fundamentals of mindfulness. But the power of that compassion, of understanding, that, you're going into the kitchen and you find this root cause, just looking at it and thinking about, okay, what is it in me that making me feel weird here? What is it? And then when you find it, using a meditation, like loving compassion or something like that, is just so mother effing powerful. It's just the thing. It's the medicine. It's just people don't know how to use it because they think it's foreign. And that's where, a coach or somebody who's like a really good coach can do it and help them. So one thing, find a coach that actually knows what they're doing and they're really good. It's super useful. But, could you maybe guide somebody on how they might use that process on their own, just to empower them to say, hey, if I were the coach in your ear, here's a way to kind of find some things, and then here's a practice that you could do to.
Yeah. So I really love, there's a new app called Break the Norms, which has some guided meditations that I really, really love. But also just downloading, I think having something on hand, right? That you can just, when you go into that anxiety state, that fear state, that I don't know where it's coming from. I don't even know where to look. I'm not feeling good in my body. What's going on? That moment that we all have so often. And the interesting thing is, to backtrack a little bit, is that I still to this day have moments where I get triggered or feel bad about my body, right? Like I'll be, at a wedding and I'll be like looking around and like that moment of insecurity, or like, where there's gorgeous girls everywhere. And I'm like that moment where I'm like, oh man. So to speak my truth is like, this still happens to me. These feelings are real. Like I'll walk by, I got this like subscription to a magazine. I don't even know where it came from. It was like someone sending it to my house, like some airline is sending it to my house. And I haven't looked through like a Vogue in like years or something. And it's like one of those, and I like get it. And I had that feeling. So it's like having the tools on site that in those moments, I don't go in the same spiral. Like it's not a weekend of binging anymore. It's not hours and hours of feeling bad and crying and, not knowing what's going on. It's like turn on a meditation, sit down for 5 minutes, put on some incense, connect to my truth, say that, this is an illusion. This isn't real. This isn't who I am or what my self-worth is. And I have a mission and a purpose that is way bigger than anything of how I look and my body. And I was given this body as a gift and a vehicle to do great things, but it is not defining who I am. And just reconnecting to that voice and that little child who's speaking and is insecure and saying, I'm going to shut you up, and I'm going to shut you up through connecting with that higher purpose. And I think that is the easiest way, just sitting down, quieting your mind, letting go of the anxiety, getting rid of the stress, turning on a voice. Also, it's really important to connect to a voice that resonates with you, that you can believe. So find not every meditation, like I could recommend, I work with Chandresh from Break the Norms and Emily Fletcher from Ziva, but find a teacher that resonates with you. Find a voice that you love listening to, that speaks to you. I also recommend recording your own voice, writing a meditation that resonates with you. There's simple ways to do it now, but write the meditation out, record it in your own voice, because that's going to trigger your subconscious patterning to actually believe it, because it's your voice that's speaking to you. That's another super powerful way to reprogram thinking. So hear your voice telling you you're okay, you're safe, you're connected to source. Everything is great. Letting go of the anxiety and yeah, I'm happy to offer some guided meditations for your audience as well that they can download that might be helpful too.
Yeah, I'll definitely put that in the show notes and make sure you can access that. So again, just really agree so wholeheartedly with everything. And I think it's so powerful. For sport, I say hypnosis is like the easiest thing ever. What do you want to do? Just relax your mind. So like there's so many different relaxations. You can listen to just something soothing and just, okay, relax, be in the moment from, think about your body. And you can go find them on the internet in 2 seconds.
Yeah,
And then you just walk your way through the thing that you want to do. And then you can use other people's words and then you use your words. But what is it that you want to do? Okay, I want to feel confident and worthy. And so just imagine and go through that visualization, because now you're reprogramming your mind. And, it's interesting when you're talking about the fact that, sometimes it happens to you. People have this misconception of, you say, enlightenment, and they go around and they buzz around and they're always in this happy state. And I think that for me, something like this, it really just shows that, what a person who is enlightened is, or has made the switch, is it happens, but then they choose who they want to be, and they aren't defined by a mental program. They have the mindfulness to recognize the mental programs, the ego, the false ego. Now, sometimes it might suck you in for a minute or an hour or a day. But the person who is awake, who is mindful, who is enlightened, so to speak, is going to figure out the plan out, knowing that's not who they are, because they're not a limited being. They're an unlimited being, that they can overcome this as far as their free will.
Exactly.
And it's almost like, the mindfulness, like cigarettes, I guess, if you smoked and you're addicted and you're like, oh, like I want a cigarette, but you have this mind thought that comes in, oh, I'm not good enough, or, oh, this thing's happening. Oh, I got to go eat a whole chocolate cake. And right. And then it's in that moment where you choose mindfulness. And that's what the master does. That's what they have to continually master it. It doesn't go away. It's a continuous process. You're continually refining trying to get, oh God, it doesn't just go away. Son of a gun is still right there, but you have an alternative, and you've figured out a way to circumvent that.
Yeah, and our body, and the interesting thing is, like, our bodies are always changing, and that's the hard thing about the modeling industry, is like you're never becoming a better version of yourself, because as you age, you get less jobs. So it's this weird mindset right around that career, and it was very challenging. There was a lot of ego attached to it, and a lot of pain. Like, all this work I'm putting in doesn't mean anything, because I'm slowly going to be pushed out of this industry anyway. And in that process, I've really learned, like, someday I will have kids, and I'm going to deal with those insecurities and those feelings of having a baby and gaining weight. And there will be times that, my hormones change, and I will add, gain or lose weight depending on that. And just being very conscious of, like, again, it's not defining who I am, and getting very clear about the importance of the fact that on a very spiritual high level, that this is an illusion, right? And that our soul, our purpose, has such higher meaning than what we are defined in our bodies. And it's just something I strongly believe in.
I love that. This is a little bit of a side note, not side note, but I think that the fundamental thing here is, we're talking about losing weight, which means we want a healthy body, which means we want to feel and vibrate and live in a certain way. And I think that beauty is such a massive thing in our culture, and it's always something visual. So I guess I would ask to you, like, what is a beautiful woman or a man to you? Like, what is beauty to you?
Yeah, that's an amazing question. That's an on the spot question. I think there's this quote that's like, I love myself the way I am, and still I want to grow. And I've talked a lot about this, is just this vision of, as humans, we are consciously evolving and are constantly evolving. And I think that we're always in a state of expansion and growing consciousness. But when we're in a state of growing, where we are constantly on the cusp of the momentum, meaning like we're part of the process, like we want to always become a better human and a better version of ourselves. And when we do have a setback, we look at it, we analyze it, We say, okay, our relationship's suffering. Where is it in me that's suffering so that I can work on that? And, there's been times I've worked on my weight, and there's been times I've worked on my career, and there's been times I've gotten a relationship coach, 2 relationship coaches, 3 relationship coaches to figure out what's going on with that. So for me, looking at that aspect of a human that's sitting across from me and saying, like, do you want to evolve? Do you want to create a better space and consciousness as a collective whole? And that begins by working on you. I always find that very beautiful in people, that if they're willing to do the work and willing to constantly be evolving energy, consciousness, spirit. I think that that's the most important part of being here.
Amazing. I love that answer. It's a very beautiful answer. No pun.
Thank you.
I'm terrible at punning. My friends used to make fun of me. I couldn't pun. They used to always make these pun jokes, and I don't know why. It didn't have the programming, and I wanted to get in there so hard. I even researched a bit. It's brutal. That's such a side note. Such an amazing answer. So I guess kind of in a similar line, if you could empower women or men, doesn't matter, a person on the planet, or even consciousness in general, and everybody in the world is going to get this belief or this shift in perspective. You can do one. What shift or belief or kind of perspective switch would you be able to empower either women or the planet or anyone?
Yeah. Wow, that's really amazing question again. One shift that I would get to empower. I think this idea, for me, it's been this idea of just limitless. Like I've really focused on this idea of not having a structure, like a 9 to 5, because I want to be able to allow the universe to provide me new experiences and create this idea of limitless. Like, you are limitless, and whether it's this lifetime, next, and that's something I believe as well. We're constantly evolving as energy, spirit, science, however you want to explain it, but that if you don't get it done this time, you're going to get it done. And that we're these limitless beings who can create these amazing things, and that we shouldn't think 9 to 5. We shouldn't think in the box. We shouldn't think, because the people that are doing these phenomenal things that are changing the world are the ones thinking like down the road, 10 years from now, what could be created that humans haven't even thought about, that we haven't even processed, or even these visions that are so out there. And for me, I still struggle with it. I'm like, well, I'm seeing my website being built for next year, but like, where is the big vision? And I have to think beyond the little things. So I think that would be it. That we can create so much more than we even can imagine in this space and time reality.
I love that. To bring up Tony again, I guess he's fresh in my mind because the documentary.
Yeah, such a good one. I loved it.
People overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in a decade or 2 decades or 3 decades. And, if you're, I don't know, a kid and, maybe you had a Nintendo or something, you couldn't really fathom VR. That was still Star Trek stuff. So if you're a kid getting into VR now, just on the technology side, we don't even know yet what's possible, even from what we can see, but that scope is so much bigger. But the thought, I totally agree on how powerful that thought is, because, okay, I just know that I'm unlimited, because this mind can only think of a certain thing. And 2 years ago, it wouldn't have half the possibilities that I have now, 5. And so what are the possibilities? And as long as I can keep my consciousness and my awareness to infinite expansion, I can allow for infinite possibilities, like miracles in your own family.
Yeah. And I think it's really important. Like, people think, oh man, I had this massive setback. I really struggled with, even if it's something even with weight or with dieting, and I had this, and we judge ourselves and just feel so bad. And I always say, you're still expanding. Your consciousness is still growing. That setback, or hitting rock bottom and getting to the very, very bottom, and being in that place where you're on the floor and you're suffering so bad, is a place of expansion. And understand that and be aware of it, that it's growing and supporting you and becoming the bigger, better version of you. And it's very hard to process. But when you begin to think of it that way, like, wow, I'm suffering for a reason, and this suffering is okay because I'm going to move through it and I'm going to be a better version of myself, is just so important to basically move through that with ease, instead of being like, wow, I feel guilty because I failed again. No, you didn't fail again. You backtracked, which is opening your mind to allow you to see what you don't want, and out of contrast, you're realizing what you do want. And those contrasting moments, again, create expansion and create those limitless possibilities. And I think, I think there will become a time where we can like see the patterns in our brain and know exactly where the thing happened and be able to heal. And like, it's going to be quicker and it's going to be in real time, and it's not going to take as long to even manifest what we want or create what we want. So it's going to be pretty cool to see.
Yes, again, totally agree. There's so much there. I was like, oh man, I had like 3 or 4 points. I was like, oh, I was like, oh yes, this. But yes, I totally agree. For me, this conversation was so amazing because it was just a different perspective. And again, like it's such a massive shift, so if I could wave a stick and have what I would like to empower the world with, which is just a shift in perspective in sport, just take that martial arts mentality, mind, body, spirit to all sport, right?
Mm-hmm.
Martial arts, it can be anything, it can be business. It would be so powerful, and all it is a shift in perspective. And so with what you're doing with weight loss and with self-love and with healthy living, it's the same thing. It's so powerful. So thank you for that. I love your work, and I commend you for it, and I appreciate it, and I wish you all the support in the entire world.
Thank you so much. And I am so grateful for this space and just the opportunity to share and the safe space. I feel very, very blessed to have had this opportunity, and obviously to have met you and to have become friends with you. So thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, good. It's supposed to be a safe space. Did you do Burning Man this year by chance, or any?
Yeah, I did the last 3 years.
Oh, was this your first year?
Third year.
My third year too.
Amazing.
Yes. The safe space.
Safe space.
Yeah, man, we're growing that out. That's amazing. Well, before we go, I'm open here. We've had an amazing talk, but was there any other, your list of skills and expertise I could go, probably for a solid 24 hours straight. Anything that you would have loved to talk about, or any kind of final notes that you'd like to leave the viewers or listeners?
I guess if I could just offer one suggestion for like what to take away right now, that would just be great for individuals if they're suffering around food or their body. It's like become very emotionally present. And what I mean by this is that most people who are probably watching this at some point in their lives have counted calories or tracked food or been very conscious of what they're eating on a daily basis. If you've ever been on a diet, you're like keeping track. So instead of keeping track of food and calories, start to keep track of your emotions and become emotionally present. So how do you feel, again, like before you eat, when you sit down to eat, how are you feeling going into it? Are you angry? Are you upset? Are you happy? Are you joyful? Then while you're eating, how are you feeling? And keep track of these things. And then after, how are you feeling? And begin to chart them over like a couple weeks, and begin to start to also take note of when you're eating, what are the patterns physically, emotionally, and then also on a subconscious level. Maybe that it's being triggered because you got off the call with your mom and it's triggering you to binge because you got in a fight with her, or whatever the case. Begin to start keeping track, and then you're going to build this beautiful database of this emotional present kind of behavior that basically is tracking how you relate to food in your body. And then you'll be able to heal. So you can say, okay, on Friday nights, I can see myself shifting into an anxiety state because I'm going out with my friends and I feel like I need to keep up with them, and maybe I need a new group of friends. Maybe I need a new community. But you'll be able to track, and the best way to do that is becoming emotionally present and starting to really process how you feel. So it takes 5 seconds before, during, after. Write it down. Keep a journal, and I promise it will be life-changing for really shifting behaviors around food.
Amazing. Yeah, that is such a piece of gold. It's simple mindfulness, and you are creating a neuro database through mindfulness. And so whoever's listening and hearing that, if that's something that you need, try it. Just try it. Just try anything. Just try it, like, so simple for 5 days and see what happens.
Yeah,
And
you'll be amazed. You'll be like, the stuff that will come up will just be super, super empowering. So
amazing. So where can people find more about you if they want to get in touch, if they want to read what you're writing and what you're up to?
yeah, so it's just sarahannstewart.com. I'm launching a new platform next year, which will have 2 courses on it: Meditate Sexy, Meditate Sexy will be the membership site, and then meditateslim.com right now is my course. So Sarah Ann Stewart, meditateslim.com. You can connect with me there, and then next year I'll have a new platform that will have the Meditate Sexy platform on that for a membership site. And then next year Holistically Slim comes out, which is the book that's debunking the world of dieting. So I'm super excited about that as well. So yeah, I would love to connect with any of you who are inspired by this or have questions. Email me. I'd love to hear from you.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for all of your work and the being that you are and your intention, because it's awesome and it's wholesome and it's needed and it's fantastic. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me so much.
You're very welcome. Thanks everyone for listening. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.